Good afternoon, fellow Plexers. Today we're going to try to help William get episodes from a series called Masterclass into Plex. And this is a prime example of why I think everyone should be using the TV database as their naming guide for Plex TV show libraries, and why you should make one advanced setting change. So we have to get off track a little bit to explain why I think that is what people should do, but this series is a perfect example. So let's go to the movie database and type in Masterclass. So here it is, but unfortunately there's only 3 seasons. And we're not going to be able to find William's episodes. These are kind of like chapters. Annie Leibovitz teaches photography, and there's 15 episodes in this kind of certain chapter. There's not a listing for that here. But there is a listing for it in the TV database. Usually these two databases agree with each other on TV shows, but not in this case. So let me just get rid of the movie database, and we'll go to seasons here, and you'll see that these have got some pretty funky named seasons. Well, what the geniuses at the TV database has done is they've decided that certain media that really weren't TV shows should be listed as a TV show to make it easier to get those media items into media centers. So you'll see that William's episodes look like they might be season 3, and you'll see we've got a perfect match. Now his labeling 5-01 is not perfect, but at least we know we can make a match to this database. And let me explain why the TV database took this tact and how you can set Plex up to take advantage of it to use the TV database as your main naming guide for episodes. Back before there was TV, there was still episodic media. Things like Flash Gordon, the original Superman, Woody Woodpecker cartoons, Tom and Jerry cartoons, and all kinds of things like that, Looney Tune cartoons. If you were going to add that type of old media to Plex, you'd have to add it all as movies, as movie shorts to a movie library, because that's how all that media is listed at the movie database. I should have left the movie database window open. So let's do this. Let's search for Tom and Jerry. Alright, so I have a lot of movies. Let's keep scrolling down. Let's go towards the end. All kinds of movies going back to 1967 and 56, 51. Let's take this 1951 item and we'll copy it. Jerry and the Goldfish. And then let's search Tom and Jerry over in the TV database. You'll see there's a series entry for 1940. Let me click to seasons, and then let me click to all seasons. Then let me search for that one episode. So you'll see the TV database listed that short episodic serial as if it was an episode from a TV series, and they've done that with everything that was produced that way. So you can add a collection of those old serials as a TV series to Plex in a way that makes sense. You're just not going to see that at the movie database. And that's the same thing with this Masterclass series. Let me do another example before we move back to Masterclass. There's a Ken Burn Films entry. Now, there's probably separate entries for each of his individual documentary series. But you can add all of them under this one entry at Plex, and it really lets you organize that type of media in a more cohesive way where you're not looking all over the place for what you want. And what they do, again, is they call the season by the years. So you wouldn't have season 10 or season 12 or whatever. You would have season space 2001. And the season episode code for the episode name would be season 2001 E01. I'm sorry, S2001 E01. So it would be, the name of the series would be Ken Burn Films. You'd have a space dash space with this coding. And then you'd have a space dash space, and you could have the episode name if you wanted that included. So this really is a leg up. If you think the movie database is where you should be for your TV shows and their episodes, you're just not understanding the gift the TV database has given all of us. And to be honest with you, Plex keeps a combined cache of both databases that they use for their latest and greatest movie scanner and agent. Which is why if you happen to have a show that you got a hold of that just aired last night and the TV database decided they couldn't add a proper episode name because whoever released it didn't release that episode name until the minute it was broadcast, well, the TV database will pick that up when they have that information, but it takes about a day to filter to Plex's cache. So when Plex first scans that brand new episode in, there is no metadata in their cache of TVDB to supply. So you'll have an unlabeled episode. You wait about a day, and just with Plex refreshing metadata occasionally, that proper episode name will then filter from TVDB to Plex's cache to your server. So it really doesn't matter where you name from. I've always named from the TV database, and you could add a year if you want. You'd have to go back to the first season for this one, but you really don't even need a year. Plex says it's good practice to add it, but most things scan in fine without it. One example would be Space 1999, that's the proper title. And it was released in 1973. Plex won't scan that one in for me, but if I add the year to it, it won't scan either. I have to go the extra step and add either the TMDB or the TVDB ID number to get that particular series to scan in properly on first try. Okay, so enough of that. Let's actually go back to William's issue and see what happens. So this tells us how things should be formatted. We'll go to season 3. So we know the name of the show is Masterclass. We don't need a year. We can have one. And this is season 3. Plex would prefer it to be season 03. That's every example they give. They use season 03 or 01 and not season 1 or season 3. And now we know how these are laid out. So let's get rid of the graphic and let me bring in the little bit of prep work I've done. So this is just the graphic that I got from William on Facebook. And these are all little short dummy files. It's actually the same file, so there's no copyright violations with YouTube. Plexers, test 1. It's a 5-second video I made up just to be able to rename media. So what we're going to do is put the media into a folder for the series name. That helps FileBot. And I'm just going to right click on it and choose Open in FileBot. I'm using Elementary OS. Now, I installed the 5.0 update the other day and I found some bugs in it, so I ditched it and put the previous 4.9.6 version on. So we're going to start with Plex's default bindings just by clicking on Match, and I'll click the TVDB. I'm sorry, FileBot's default bindings, not Plex's. So FileBot wants to be sure we're picking the right series, so I'm just going to select Masterclass. And lo and behold, we got lucky on 4 out of the 5 episodes. It doesn't know the first one. It thinks it's a season 5 introduction. And if we go back here, we're probably going to have an introduction for every season, which is going to confuse FileBot. FileBot can work around the bad file names because there's extra information in them that can make it a match. The second episode is portrait photography, which is right here. So I could let it rename everything except the one by removing it and just clicking this. Or I could give FileBot a little bit of extra help by doing that, and I don't have to do it for every file. So let's go back and open this back up. Again, we'll use the default binding. Tell it to confirm Masterclass. And you'll see this time it's got all the names correct. So let me try it with one of my custom expressions, which is rename only. Again, FileBot wants to be sure of which series it is. And my custom expressions add extra information. That happened to be a 4K video clip that I saved. And this is telling us the resolution, the video codec, how many audio channels there are, and the audio codec. I like to have that extra information included in my file names. Now I go off the rails slightly from how Plex says to name movie media, but with episodes, they've now instructed us that you can put extra information into brackets, and by having it in brackets, it causes Plex to ignore anything in those brackets. I've adopted that for my movie renaming too, in the anticipation that Plex might do the same thing eventually with their movie naming guide. It doesn't matter. I used to separate this information with just a space dash space. So all I have to do is click rename and those files will be renamed. I have another expression that creates folder structure, and you'll see it's going to stay in the media folder in the TV1 subfolder that we're in. It's going to create the season folders and it will give it this name, and this is adding the year in. So let me just go back to Plex's default binding. I don't know why they call it a binding and not an expression. So let's rename them to the default binding and see how Plex actually finds this media. Right, so I do have to create structure for this. Let me get rid of this. So we know these are the season 3 episodes. So let me just create that folder. And we'll drop all of these in with a cut and paste into folder command. Alright, so I am going to bring my Plex window over, and again, just because I have fewer subfolders in my kids' TV show library, that's where I'm going to drop this in. And I'll do that off screen. And the files were all very small. And I don't have automatic scanning set up on this Synology NAS, so we'll have to scan them. And you'll see we're detecting intros from Masterclass Season 3. And the series added just as it should. It pulled the proper metadata. And it really is easy peasy. And everyone's got a little lesson on why the TV database really is a preferred database for Plex if you're going to have content that might not ever have been an original TV series. It's great for old movie serials. So thanks for watching, and William, I hope this fixes you up. You'll have to find an older version of FileBot to install. There's a bug in version 5. I am actually working on creating a post to alert the developer of that issue in the next day or two. Thanks for watching, and happy plexing. Happy weekend too.